Good evening. I'm Alan Joines, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem, and it's my honor to call to order this June 21st meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and ask the City Clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Scippio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember Macintosh.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to join the City Council meeting in a moment of silence in just a moment. But before we do, I want to ask for special consideration of former council member Joycelyn Johnson, who passed away today. Was a colleague of ours for many, many years. And so we ask that you would remember her and her family in your prayers. Please join the City Council meeting in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. And would you join the City Council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our Sergeant at Arms tonight is Lieutenant Ryan Phillips. Lieutenant, thank you for being with us tonight. Tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of two parts. We have the general agenda, which will include the consideration of this year's annual budget, as well as the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that have been unanimously approved by a committee of the City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established city procedures. There'll be no discussion of the items on the consent agenda unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Items not removed will be enacted one motion. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed on Wednesday at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, copies of our agenda as well as videos of previous meetings are always available to the members of the public by going to the city's website and click on the Watch Meetings Online option. Council members, as you have noticed, no doubt it is a full agenda tonight. A number of consent items as well as the full budget and other items. So if there are items that you just got to pull off the consent agenda, I would ask that we try to do those quickly, and if possible, try to get your questions answered at another time. So are there any items that anybody wants to pull from the consent agenda?
I move for approval of the consent agenda, Mayor and Council.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we will have a motion to approve the consent agenda, and please, those in favor vote yes, all opposed vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you, council member. I won't tell you what Councilmember Scipio told me before the meeting.
She told us too.
As the next order of business, we'll hold a public hearing on the proposed budget. When the public hearing is called, persons that are asked to speak will be given an opportunity to speak, but limit your comments, please, to 3 minutes. And after the public hearing, I'll close the public hearing and we'll consider the item. Before we begin into that, I'd like to ask our budget director, Mr. Scott Tash, to give us a brief summary of this year's budget. Mr. Tash?
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council.
Good evening.
We do have a very brief presentation on the fiscal year 22-23 budget that was proposed in May, went through several finance committee workshops, had 3 changes, which you will see reflected here in the presentation. Total recommended budget from Finance Committee is $627.6 million. You can see $416 million for operations, roughly $47 million for debt service, and an additional $165 million for capital. As we've discussed previously, and I apologize for this not going through, that well. A majority of that is related to the $55 million limited obligation bond package that is part of the 23 budget. You see annual change of nearly $50 million in capital projects fund that is reflective of that $55 million net of a few other changes. Some pretty significant increases in compensation. We see net new positions there, including the transition to in-house recycling that will take place in April of 2023. Very significant contributions to vehicle acquisition to catch up on some equipment that has fallen behind the replacement schedule, as well as increases from the prior year in debt service payments for bonds that were previously issued. In terms of that $55 million LOBS package, we can see that roughly a third of it is for quality transportation, which would include things like bridge repair and replacement, sidewalks, and street resurfacing. Roughly another third for livable neighborhoods. A majority of that is in our Recreation and Parks Department, which is for replacement and maintenance of a lot of our aging parks amenities and infrastructure. On the economic vitality and diversity side, that includes the Transformational Job Training Center, as well as enhancements to some of our public assembly facilities. $5 million of service excellence is to replace the roof at the Joycelyn Johnson Municipal Services Center. And that last $1.3 million in safe and secure community is related to the 911 center upgrades. This budget does include a proposed tax rate increase of 2.36 cents, as we have discussed previously, taking that rate to 63.6 cents per $100 of assessed value. Roughly a penny and a half of that's related to the increases in personnel, including new public safety pay plans, and about 9/10 of a penny for the net new cost for recycling program. Looking at how we compare to the other major cities in North Carolina for property taxes, water and sewer billings, and other selected fees, we see that we in Winston-Salem are still below the other 4 major cities in terms of total aggregate costs for those services. That is the presentation that I have for you. Be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Tash. Are there any questions for Mr. Tash? Thank you. Obviously, the Finance Committee, as well as the full council, has spent a lot of time on the budget thus far. So thank you, Mr. Tash. We'll do the public hearing for the budget. No one has signed up to be heard, but I'll be glad to recognize anyone who would like to make a comment on the city's proposed annual budget. All right, thank you very much. I'll close the public hearing then, and we'll move then to item G2.
I had some comments to make. This may be.
Yeah, I'm going to come right to you, just right there. Item G2.
Item G2, Annual Appropriation Tax Levy Ordinance for Fiscal Year 2022-2023, authorizing the city's annual operations and adopting the property tax rate of 63.6 per 100 of assessed valuation.
Thank you. I'm going to recognize the chairman of the Finance Committee, Councilman Clark.
I'll move approval and would like to make a comment.
Second.
Is there a motion and second?
Second.
I made the motion.
He just did.
Okay.
Just second.
And we will, you want to vote on it, then make some comments, Councilman
I'd
Clark?
rather, my comments are in budget in general, but I think this would be an appropriate time to do it.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I have 2 items that I brought up briefly at the committee level, but I thought they were important enough to bring up at the full council meeting. I've asked the city clerk to have the 3 graphs on the bus system available. If you'll please pull up the first one. These are in the supplemental information everyone received. I have been a vocal critic, a lone vocal critic of the bus system since I have been here. I want to present this as evidence that we need to do better. This is a chart of fixed ridership. I took a 10-year period from 2012 to 2022. Ridership is down 60%. That's the number of people getting on a bus, down 60%. Next graph, please. At the same time, the costs are up 40%. We're spending 40% more money to move 60% fewer people. You add the 2 together, and the fixed cost per ridership over the last 10 years is up 335%. We've got to do better. And I don't know what the answer is. I have suggestions, and I have passed those by Mr. Garrity. But why are we spending It's 40% more money to transport 60% fewer people. And if you go back to the first graph, please, they're projecting next year even lower ridership. So that's why I have been a critic of the bus system. I think there's something fundamentally flawed about it, and I will leave it at that. The other comment I want to make, we talk about carbon footprints, but there's nothing specific in this budget. And I am recommending to the city manager that in future budgets, we have a section, probably 2 pages, that will summarize the carbon footprint issue. I think we need I believe by the way, did we meet with Mr. Popinski about this? And all the data I'm looking for currently exists, so we're not talking about any additional staff time, I don't think. 2008 is our year that we steward to. I think we could have a 5-10-year bar chart type thing of how much carbon we produce and whether or not it's going up or down. And probably need to show that in total numbers and also per capita. If we say we're doing something, let's see if we actually are. And also incorporated in that would be highlights of steps we did that year and future steps for the next years. Mr. Mayor, those are the only 2 items.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any additional comments or questions? Councilmember McIntosh?
I just want to thank this council for doing the work and emphasizing maintenance. I've talked about that a lot over the years, but this council actually stepped up and said we want to commit money to maintenance, and I really want to applaud my fellow council members for that.
Excellent point. Councilmember Mundy.
I want to just reiterate a conversation that I've had with the city manager and some of our assistant city managers over this next year and going into the following year. I think we also need to start measuring better and showing to the council what our customer service levels are. I know that they've not been talking to each other, and we've fallen down on the job in the last few months at communicating with all of our constituents about city services. And there again, just like with buses, we can do better, and we should. And that's going to take some money in the budget and some attention to that.
Thank you. All right, we do have a motion and a second to approve.
Mr. Mayor, the
Yes,
city
Councilman
attorney would like for me to actually read the motion, if that's okay.
Clark. Go right ahead.
So I don't go to jail here. Okay, move to approve the annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, for the fiscal year 2022-23, which sets the tax rate at 63.6 cents per 100 of assessed value. That's the actual motion.
All right, thank you. Is there a second to that one? Thank you. All right, all those in favor of that motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you, council members. Item G3.
Item G3, Project Budget Ordinance for fiscal year 2022-2023, authorizing appropriations for certain special revenue funds, capital projects, enterprise capital projects, internal service capital projects, and capital equipment funds.
Thank you, Councilmember Clark.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the project budget ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2022-23, authorizing appropriations for certain special revenue funds, capital projects, enterprise capital projects, internal service capital projects, and capital equipment funds.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion or questions on this item? Seeing none, please, all those in favor of the motion, vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item, I might just say for the members of the public, we're getting ready to go into a number of motions here where we'll be excusing certain council members from certain items, and this is due to a new state law that was passed, I guess, in the last session, which requires council members to disclose if they serve on an advisory board or commission, and the city might have some contractual relationship or funding relationship with that board or commission. And so we'll be excusing certain council members as we go through, and that's the reason we see it. So item G4, please.
Item G4, motion to excuse council members Macintosh, Scipio, Mundy, and Taylor from voting on item G5.
Is there a motion to excuse Councilman McIntosh, Scipio, and Taylor?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of that motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. We'll now go to item G5.
Item G5, Annual Appropriation and Tax Levy Ordinance for Fiscal Year 2022, 2023, authorizing the city's annual operating appropriations for anticipated revenues and expenditures related to services provided by the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership, and adopting a property tax rate of 9.0 cents per 100 of assessed valuation on property in the Downtown Winston-Salem Business Improvement District.
Is there a motion to
Move for
approve?
approval.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
I think she wants me to read the full motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Clark, would you read the full motion, please?
Yes, I'm doing the best I can here.
Do your job.
I move the annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2022-23 for anticipated revenues and expenditures related to services provided by the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership, and adopting a tax rate of 9 cents per 100 of assessed value in the Downtown Winston-Salem Business Improvement District.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Burke. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed will vote no. And with Councilmember Macintosh, Scipio, and Taylor are excused from voting.
And Mundy.
And Mundy, excuse me, I beg your pardon. Thank you. And that motion,
I have a question, Mayor.
yeah, just 1 second. We've got 4 in favor of the motion and 4 abstaining, so can we, it is an ordinance.
Basically, what you need is a simple majority of those voting, so it passes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Councilmember, Mayor
And
Pro Tem
I
Adams.
guess this may be for you or the city attorney. It had Councilmember Scipio seconding the motion that she is being excused from.
Technically, they haven't been excused from voting until you all excuse them from voting, so I don't think there's a problem with them making the motion and voting on the motion to
Thank
excuse
you.
themselves. But I appreciate you pointing that out.
All right, thank you. Item G5. We've done G5, excuse me. Item G6.
Item G6, motion to excuse Councilmember Taylor from voting on G7 and G8.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to excuse Councilmember Taylor. All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That's unanimous. Councilmember Taylor excused for voting on item G7 and 8. So we go to item G7.
Item G7, Annual Appropriation Tax Levy Ordinance for Fiscal Year 2022, 2023, authorizing the city's annual operating appropriations for anticipated revenues and expenditures for marketing and communications to include advertising, books, magazines, and periodicals by fund, together with a financial plan for internal service funds.
Councilmember Clark, would you read the motion?
Yes, sir, thank you. I move to approve the annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for advertising and select books, magazine, and periodical budgets for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for fiscal year 2022-23.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor of that motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And Councilmember Taylor is excused. Thank you. That motion passes. Item G8.
Item G8, Project Budget Ordinance for Fiscal Year 2022-2023, authorizing appropriation for expenditures on advertising, books, magazines, and periodicals, and revenue for fiscal year 2022-2023, and thereafter for select special revenue funds.
Councilmember Clark, would you read the
Yes,
motion?
I would move to approve the project budget ordinance for advertising and select books, magazines, and periodical budgets for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina fiscal year 2022-23.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Councilmember Taylor is excused. Thank you. That is approved, 7 in favor and 1 excused. Item G9.
Item G9, motion to excuse Councilmember Mundy and Councilmember Scipio from voting on item G10.
Is there a motion to excuse Councilmember Mundy and Scipio from voting on item G10?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please vote aye. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item G10.
Item G10, Annual Appropriation Tax Levy Ordinance for Fiscal Year 2022, 2023, authorizing the city's annual operating appropriations for anticipated revenues and expenditures for the Caladium and Family Services and General Fund.
Thank you. Councilman Clark.
Yes, sir, thank you. I move to approve the annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for anticipated revenues and expenditures related to Caladium and Family Services in the General Fund for the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2022-23.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no, with Councilmember Mundy and Scipio excused. Motion passes with 5 yeses and, let's see that come up.
2 excuse.
Should have been 6 yeses, I think. Councilmember Mundy and Scipio were excused. All right. Thank you. Item G11.
Item G11, motion to excuse Mayor Pro Tem Adams and Council Members Macintosh and Larson from voting on G12.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of this item, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. We'll go now to item G12.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for anticipated revenues and expenditures related to the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, National League of Cities, and the North Carolina League of Municipalities in the General Fund for the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2022-23.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Councilmember McIntosh, and Larson are excused. Thank you, and that motion passes 5 in favor and 3 excused. Item G13.
Item G13, motion to excuse Councilmember Scipio, Burke, and Larson from voting on items G14.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item G14.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the project budget ordinance for anticipated revenues and expenditures for federal housing funds for the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2022-23.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Councilmember Scipio, Burke, and Larson are excused. Motion passes 5 in favor and 3 excused. Item G15.
Item G15, resolution approving the capital plan for fiscal years 2022, 2023 through 2027 through 2028 as a financial planning guide recommended by Finance Committee.
Councilmember Clark.
I move to approve a resolution approving the capital plan for fiscal years 2022 to 23 through 2027-28.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item G16.
Item G16, resolution approving one-time supplemental payment for the City of Winston-Salem's police officers' retirement system for fiscal year 2022-2023, recommended by Finance Committee.
Councilmember Clark.
I move to approve a resolution providing a one-time supplemental increase of 2% for the City of Winston-Salem police officer retirement system for fiscal year 2022-23.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item G17.
Item G17, resolution adopting financial policies for the city of Winston-Salem, recommended by Finance Committee.
Councilmember Clark.
I move to approve a resolution adopting general fund balance policies for the city of Winston-Salem.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item G18.
Item G18, resolution amending Article 2 of the City of Winston-Salem's Personnel Resolution, adjusting positions and classifications, authorizing the addition of public safety career ladders, and authorizing merit pay adjustments for employees, recommended by Finance Committee.
I'm going to recognize Councilmember Taylor, Chairman of the Public Safety Committee, for this item.
I move to approve the resolution amending Article 2 of the City of Winston-Salem Personnel Resolution, adjusting positions and classifications, authorizing the addition of public safety career ladders, and authorizing merit pay adjustments for employees.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item G19.
Item G19, public hearing on petition to close an abandoned portion of 11th Street and Ivy Avenue and notice to all persons interested in the closing thereof. Petition of David Vogel, Two Cities Church Incorporated.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone, the council chamber, who is opposed to this street closing? The proponents are here. If there are any questions. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. And this did come from the Public Works Committee, but it's in the East Ward. I would recognize Councilmember Scipio.
I move for approval of G19.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor of this item, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Council members, staff informs me that we'd like to remove item G20 from the agenda tonight for some additional staff work. We bring that back in August. Item G21.
Item G21, consideration of ordinances amending Chapter 2 entitled Administration to create A, Section 2 through 9 sale or lease of city-owned property for affordable housing purposes, and B, 2 through 10, City of Winston-Salem Housing Justice Act, recommended by Community Development Housing General Government Committee with 3 in favor and 1 opposed.
I recognize Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Chairman of the General Government Housing Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like for the city attorney to do a brief presentation on this.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be happy to. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. What you have before you are 2 ordinances. The first ordinance pertains to the sale or lease of city-owned property for affordable housing purposes. The ordinance proposes to use city-owned property to promote the construction of a blend or combination of housing consisting of affordable housing for low and moderate income persons, workforce housing, and market rate housing. The affordability period for single-family housing is at least 15 years and at least 30 years for multifamily housing. Again, this is to promote a combination of housing using city-owned and city-leased property for affordable housing, market rate housing, and workforce housing. The second ordinance that you have in the package is the Housing Justice Act. Basically, it prohibits discrimination based upon sources of income, which includes Social Security, SSI, federal vouchers, retirement income, and similar income. It also provides for a blend or combination of housing consisting of affordable housing for low and moderate income persons, workforce housing, and market rate housing. The affordability period for this program for single-family housing is at least 15 years and at least 30 years for multifamily housing.
Excuse me, Attorney Carmen.
Yes.
Mayor, could this go up? I mean, we got a handout, a presentation. If you could just show like what's the change,
Sure.
so that the people can see it.
It's the chart.
Yeah.
And the first change appears on page 5. Again, for the ordinance that deals with the sale or lease of city-owned property, the major change is highlighted in red font. It basically changes the affordability period, which was initially 30 years for single-family housing to at least 15 years. And for multifamily housing, it initially was 50 and 99 years, and it changes that to at least 30 years. So that is the change for the first ordinance, which deals with the sale or lease of city-owned property for affordable housing purposes. Okay, the second ordinance is, again, the Housing Justice Act. As I indicated earlier, it basically prohibits discrimination based upon sources of income, which I listed earlier, and it also has a affordable housing component. And this act applies to properties, city-owned properties that are used for affordable housing purposes, and it also applies when the city provides funding, okay? And the percentages here are a little lower than the percentages for the sale or lease of city-owned property, but both ordinances are geared towards promoting affordable housing, in particular a combination, affordable housing, workforce housing, and market rate housing. Again, this has an affordability period as well. It's at least 15 years for single-family homes and at least 30 years for multifamily homes. Now, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Attorney Carmen? All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Yes, I move that approval of G21.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Yes. Again, the city, our job is to facilitate, hopefully building out to get through this housing crisis for all of us, but mostly for the people that need it the most. And sometimes some of the things we do to try to get there may not be what people think should be done. But what I can commend our legal department, our city attorney, and our staff on doing planning and others, community development, housing, is that they do the due diligence part. They go out, they investigate. They, glean data from other cities across the country as well as North Carolina to try to help us to make the best decisions we can make when they bring suggestions for ordinances and resolutions around housing and other initiatives. So I am proud to support this again. This is another way, hopefully, we can facilitate once we start building as to what we're going to build, but also keeping in mind that there are a lot of units in the city and the county that are losing their affordability status and may never return. So while we may build 700 units, there may be 100 units coming off the books that are no longer affordable for people that need it the most. So again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Attorney Carmen, your staff, and planning and everybody involved.
Thank you very much. Ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is 7 in favor, 1 opposed. Councilmember Clark voting in the negative. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for this item. Item G22.
Item G22, Mayor Joines' recommendation for appointment to Historic Resource Commission, Nicole Townsend-Green, term expiring June 2026.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item G23.
Item G23, Mayor Joines' recommendation for appointment to the Community Sustainability Program Committee, category appointment, committee chair Alan Smart, term expiring May 2024.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of this item, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item G24.
Item G24, Mayor Joines' recommendation for reappointments to the Community Sustainability Program Committee. Category appointment North Ward, Amber Baker, term expiring May 2023. Category appointment Southeast Ward, Bodiford Stackhouse, term expiring May 2024. Category appointment South Ward, Leah Levine, term expiring May 2024. Category appointment West Ward, Raji Kapila-Sharari, term expiring May 2024.
Is there a
Move for
motion?
approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, please vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item G25.
Item G25, public comment period.
This is a time once per month that we invite citizens to address me and the city council on items that are germane to city government. We would ask that you would state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we set aside a total of 30 minutes for the public comment period. Individual signed up tonight would be Daniel Brooks.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for your time. I came tonight just to speak on the frightening rise of rental cost and affordable housing.
Would you state your name and address, please?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Daniel Brooks. I live at 4 Vintage Avenue in Winston-Salem, and I came to speak about the climbing rental prices in the city and unaffordability in housing. And I thank you for all the work that the City Council has been putting in thus far, and encourage and hope to see more continued action in that field. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can't quite make out the name. Is it Gurley, G-O-U-R-L-E-Y?
Hello. Thank you, guys. Good evening. My name is Shekinah. It's Shekinah Gorley.
Thank
I
you.
also live at 4 Vintage Avenue.
Thank you.
I also came to speak on the same subject, and I also would like to thank you. It's good to hear what you guys are trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard during the public comment period? All right. Seeing no one, I will close the public comment period and would certainly ask for a motion for adjournment and say that City Council will not be meeting during the month of July, so we will see you back here in August. So would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. We are adjourned.